You might have noticed on Census Reporter that you can get data from the American Community Survey for virtually any location. It helps to know that the Census Bureau has specific names for different kinds of locations, which are called summary levels. We're going to guide you through these terms so you understand the locations you're looking at and how and where they fit in a bigger landscape. One of the places you'll encounter summary levels on Census Reporter is when you search for a specific street address. The search will result in a list and map of all of the summary levels that the address belongs to. Here's a list of the summary levels covered on Census Reporter before we get into any more specifics. This list and the next chart might seem a little daunting, but we're going to break it down. You don't have to be too overwhelmed because you're already familiar with many of the names for these summary levels, like zip codes, school districts, congressional districts, counties, and states. You'll notice that there are lines all over this chart. The lines represent a containment relationship between the two summary levels, with the larger area containing the smaller one. For example, there's a line connecting places to states. This means that places are in states. You'll see that there's no line connecting places to counties because one place can span more than one county. As another example, you'll see that zip code tabulation areas are connected only to the nation by a line and not states like you might think, because there are zip codes that cross state borders. Some of these summary level names are pretty clear, but others like census tracts, block groups, and even something familiar like places aren't as easy to understand at first. We'll walk through some of these in this video, starting with places and other summary levels that people use frequently. You might be thinking of looking up data for your city or town, but what does that translate to in Census Bureau terms? It's likely that you want to look at places, and it's easiest to think of these as cities, towns, villages, or boroughs. There's also county subdivisions, and in some states, county subdivisions serve as important local governments like cities and towns. These states are listed on the screen. Depending on the state, it might make more sense to look at county subdivisions rather than places. In some cases, you may find after searching places or county subdivisions that it might actually be better to compare metro areas. The Census Bureau calls them core-based statistical areas, but we label them as metro areas on Census Reporter. These areas are defined as one or more counties that are closely tied together economically and socially. CBSAs include both metropolitan and micropolitan areas. We won't worry about the technical difference, but it is worth knowing that some micropolitan areas, like Hilo, Hawaii, which you can see on the screen, are bigger than some metropolitan areas, like Billings, Montana. Urban areas are similar to metro areas. They're areas based on population and land use, while metro areas are made up of a county or a group of counties. Urban areas are a more technical summary level that you may never need to use. So far, we've looked at summary levels at the city or metro level, but if you want to compare certain locations within that city instead of comparing the city to other cities, you can try block groups and census tracts. Block groups are the smallest area for which estimates from the American Community Survey are available. Keep this in mind when you're looking at the data, which will be more subject to uncertainty because of the small sample size, and look out for those margins of error. More advanced census data users sometimes use block groups as building blocks for geographies not covered by the census. Census tracts are also used to compare different parts of larger geographies. Tracts are a bit more resilient to sampling error than block groups because tracts have larger samples. Block groups and census tracts mainly serve statistical purposes. On Census Reporter, you might encounter the funny name PUMA. PUMA stands for Public Use Microdata Area. In some places, especially big cities, PUMAs can be a convenient way to look up data for areas within the city. There's another acronym called NECTA, or New England City and Town Area. These are similar to metro areas, but they're defined by county subdivisions instead of counties, which probably better reflects the realities of New England. Of course, it is impossible to talk about the landscape of the United States without acknowledging the history and relationship of Native people with this land. The land currently recognized by the Census Bureau as American Indian Areas, Alaska Native Areas, and Hawaiian homelands are identified as native areas on Census Reporter. There are a number of summary levels representing parts of native areas, which you can see on the screen. Some of the largest summary levels are divisions and regions. These are grouped geographically. There are 9 census divisions that make up the 4 census regions of the United States. So now that you have all of this new knowledge about census terminology, how can you use it on Census Reporter? When you search for an address, Census Reporter shows you the specific geographies that contain that address, and each one is labeled with its summary level. There will never be more than one geography for each summary level, and for some addresses, not all summary levels apply. When you search for a profile page, the suggestions include the summary levels for that geography, which can help you pick between similar options. When you go to search a location for any data tables, you can type in the name of a summary level and a specific geographic name to get results related for that specific summary level. This is a great way to quickly use summary levels to find the data you need for any location. If you're still confused about terms, you can find more definitions on Census Reporter's glossary page, or wherever words appear with a dotted underline. As always, feel free to send us a message with any questions.